Longevity Plus would like to thank you for joining our webinar today. Our host, Dr. Garry Gordon, is an expert on nutrition, mineral metabolism, and anti-aging. He is a consultant to Longevity Plus, where he is responsible for designing effective natural supplements that help to support optimal health. Today, Dr. Gordon will be answering questions. You must be dialed in on your telephone or have a computer microphone readily available. To raise your hand and be placed in the queue, just click the hand icon located in your control panel to the right side of your screen. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Garry Gordon.
Welcome back, everyone. It's been a wild week since I last visited with all of you. I went on Wednesday to Minneapolis, where I lectured on Thursday at the ACAM combined meeting with environmental medicine, integrative medicine, and holistic medicine, with over 600 doctors attending the Eye Mosaic in Minneapolis. We had an exciting time. Many important developments that could dramatically improve the efficiency at which we offer treatment to all patients seeking chelation therapy came out during the course of the oxidative workshop, particularly with Dr. Tom Hesselink's presentation on hydrogen peroxide, where he found that it would be possible if we're using calcium EDTA, which I've advocated now for many years, instead of the disodium, and made several other changes to combine in one visit the benefits of oxidative therapy to lower your total body burden of pathogens and the chelation to lower your total body burden of heavy metals. So I need everyone to know that I then jumped on an airplane Friday night and was at the A4M conference in Orlando, the anti-aging conference. What's interesting for all of you to know is since I've become so much healthier as a result of my twice-a-day 10-minute session with my pulsed electromagnetic field device, we have taken this $20,000 wonderful device and treated my friends at these two conferences, and we had many dramatic successes, which caused more and more doctors to buy the machine for their practice. So pulsed electromagnetic field will become much more common in the future. And in fact, when you look at the big picture of the effect of the Earth's magnetic field on our health, which is well described in the book called The Intention Experiment by Lynn McTaggart, which is a wonderful book. It's her follow-up to her book called The Field. In this book, she has many references on what the Earth's electromagnetic field does to our health. And it's my position today that the Earth changes and climate changes that are going to make things essential that weren't essential yesterday, just to maintain some degree of reasonable health and comfort. For example, if we go into the proposed excessive heating of the planet, air conditioning will become almost essential instead of optional. My point is that today, with the dramatic decline in the Earth's electromagnetic field to approximately 1% of what it was a couple 100,000 years ago, it may be that we're all going to have to team together and share these pulse electromagnetic field devices among families or among neighbors so that we have access to refueling our tanks and not wasting our time on whether or not it treats a disease. It merely replaces an essential part of our health. So what I want everybody to know is that the talk I overviewed last week for you about the healthy medicine economy, I attend many, many conferences on cancer all the time. I've been at 31 of the 33 cancer conferences put on by the group called Cancer Control Society, which is held every Labor Day in Los Angeles at Universal City, and it's a great conference for you to share information with other people, because once you are told that you have cancer, then it's a lot different, and you are really struggling to figure out which answers resonate with you. Because I know what I would do if I was told that I had a significant cancer burden, which of course would be almost impossible since I do the annual screening test with caprofile.net that I've told all you about. So there's not been but one potential case in 15 years that actually had any significant cancer on that failed that test. And in fact, there was a good reason for that so-called failure of the test. So nonetheless, let's assume that I was unlucky and something happened. Since I know the medical field so well, and I studied radiology, I could state unequivocally that I would never use radiation ever as the primary treatment for anything. I might use it as a secondary treatment if I had a lot of metastasis of a breast cancer in a rib. That will certainly help the pain. But don't tell me radiation is an answer to my health problem when cancer is a systemic disease and radiation only induces more cancer. That's why we're all so worried about the problem in Japan. So don't sell me any radiation. Thank you. Now then, that's going to leave chemo. Well, is there any chemo that I would take? Well, if it was my child and my child had acute leukemia, there would be certain times that I might learn about it too late and have to do something that I hate and would later possibly regret, because 20 or 30 years later, my child whose life we may well save with certain forms of chemo and certain forms of leukemia may later be hit with a cancer. So it's really important then to know that if I'm so down on the chemo and not very up on the radiation, what is my position on surgery? Well, that's real simple. Don't let them frighten you with this nonsense that you're going to be dead in a week. That no doctor has the power to make that prognosis. That is absolutely not the practice of medicine. That's salesmanship, selling you on something you may not even want. My point is that in my previous slides, or you go to my website, gordonresearch.com, and you simply put in the word cancer, you will find all of my articles that I share with the public on my gordonresearch.com. And if you are a member, because you're a health professional and have been permitted to join my fight group, in my fight group, you put in the word cancer, and you will be able to see things that will astound you. For example, how many of you know that we can cut down tremendously a lot of the fatalities in cancer and extend lifespan with simple things from melatonin to DHEA to high-dose vitamin C to A, and the list goes on and on with high-dose D and selenium. We'll try to show those to you today. The reason I think I liked this conference so much last week was because, excuse me, it's been 2 weeks already, was because much of the conference was from really dedicated people who really are here to help mankind. And really, some of these answers are in the affordable range, which is in contradistinction to the nonsense when they tell you you need to have $80,000 a year for some crazy chemo that might extend your lifespan for a month, but in order to take the stupid chemo, which of course is seductive, why not take the chemo? Government's paying for it. It doesn't cost us anything. Of course, during that time you lose the chance I would have had to buy you a few extra years to live with things that make sense, including hyperthermia and oxidative therapies and other things that I hope to educate all of you in adequately so that you can make what I call an informed decision. Bottom line, nobody needs surgery overnight. And if that gives you a week to think about which surgeon would you really like, because you may be talking to the wrong surgeon. Or maybe you'd like to get your body healthy enough to withstand surgery. That's pretty simple. See any of the ACAM doctors that I have trained? We only have about 1,500 of them, or members of the International College of Integrative Medicine, ICIMED.com, or even join the American Holistic Medical Association website and find a doctor from there, or the American Academy of Environmental Medicine. These doctors can give you meaningful infusions of things like vitamin C. They just cannot use high-dose vitamin C and then follow it with glutathione. That helps defeat the purpose of the high-dose vitamin C. And if we know you have cancer, of course, then we'd add vitamin K3. And then we'd put it in, buy it from a pharmacy and get Apatone, A-P-A-T-O-N-E, which is FDA approved. So I don't want everybody to have to buy the DVDs, but I want you to get an idea why I got so excited. Moshe Frankel is really working at MD Anderson when he, on his own nickel, went over to India and visited a homeopathic physician who on a typical day may treat 1,000 patients. And he brought back some of those homeopathic remedies. You know, homeopathic remedies usually only cost a few dollars. And he tested them in the cell culture system at MD Anderson and identified a couple of them that clearly have anti-cancer effects. So that gets me excited. And Dwight McGee, having known this wonderful, motivated, holistic doctor for many years, I know that he really wants to stay abreast of all the things you could do if money was no object. And you could really send your blood for your tumor overseas for DNA typing. And Donald Yance is so exciting with his knowledge of all of the herbal families and how they fit together and can replace most of the chemo somebody wants you to take. And Jean Wallace walks around with a brain that's a built-in computer because she can tell you if you're on this chemo and taking this nutrient, then you might want to take this herbal. I mean, it's amazing. And as you see, the rest of these speakers, we're going to have to go faster. Zeev and Carl Moret, my friend Dr. Shelton, a very competent homeopathic right here in Phoenix that does many, many life-saving things. And then Dr. Bharat Agrawal, who I felt his lecture would one day warrant a Nobel Prize. And I don't have his slides today, but I have enough to get you intrigued about who these people are, like Dr. Ron Hunning-Hockey that runs the Reardon Clinic in Wichita, Kansas, that he took over for Hugh Reardon, who's deceased. But the Reardon Clinic specializes in high-dose vitamin C for the treatment of cancer with all of the knowledge base, with a huge team of people. And then you've got people like Steve Johnson who can just teach you one typical thing. It's almost a homeopathic. It's an injectable herbal mistletoe that dramatically is changing people's lives. But as you look at this talk by Moshe Frankel, his talk, Integrative Medicine, The Future, Thoughts and Reflections. If you only bought this one talk, and you were, say, a breast cancer woman, say, 48 years of age, and you wanted to know, gee, I've been told that I've got this breast cancer, and they're telling me I need surgery, chemo, radiation, and I want to know, what are they offering me? What's the benefit? What's the risk? What happens if I do nothing? Wouldn't you like to know what happens if you did nothing with your cancer? Well, he's going to a lot of effort to try to help you get meaningful answers to those questions. And so that talk, which we can't take the time to cover in depth today, is on those tapes. So you don't have to buy the $350 set. You may just want to buy one talk like that, because that talk led to a book that a young lady wrote, and she wound up winning her successful outcome of her breast cancer, and she didn't use mainstream, but she really did a good job of quantifying why she'd make the decision to spend her own money and gamble her own life instead of taking this wonderful security blanket of taking the chemo radiation surgery they offer so nicely, because it's all covered by your insurance accepting 20%, so you may only owe $5,000 or $10,000 when you're done. That $5,000 or $10,000 properly spent on alternative, I assure you, always would have a better outcome than those who buy into chemoradiation surgery alone. I like surgery once I'm in good enough shape to do it. I want anybody with a big tumor the size of a grapefruit to certainly have it eliminated. But I don't want people being lied to that they need to have a biopsy of their prostate twice a year. What nonsense. Biopsies are not innocuous. They can spread the disease. So anyhow, when you look at these slides, this gentleman is now at the University of Texas. Moshe is, and he is telling people that things you need to look into: acupuncture, massage, homeopathy, body-mind. When you read the book by Lynn McTaggart, The Intention Experiment, you will want to do mind-body on yourself all the time. You won't regret buying that book. It's been out since '07. But healing and energy treatments, I mean, what I'm seeing in the number of doctors that responded with the PEMF treatment at the anti-aging A4M in Orlando, and the doctor friends in ACAM whose lives were turned around. They felt that different. They're going to buy a $20,000 machine because they could see that it's working. And of course, music therapy has wonderful resonances and frequencies. But Moshe has written a little bit about homeopathy and cancer cure. You have access to all of these slides. They will be on my website. And if I'm going to get questions and answers, we're not going to take the time to do a lot more, but I want to make it very clear that he published this very important study on the use of homeopathy, proving that it has effects against breast cancer cell lines. So I need you all to know that even if your loved one doesn't believe in homeopathy is not the issue here. These cell cultures that they treated with these things didn't have to believe in homeopathy to see the results that we've been able to document. But of course, because I like the idea of body-mind, those people that really happen to choose which of all these alternatives out there they resonate with will probably do better. And there's so many things that you can do. But this was, again, the actual research paper on the homeopathy called carcinosin or phytolacta that absolutely helped the cancer cell commit suicide and die. Now, Jean Wallace, in her talk, you need to almost be a doctor to enjoy her talk because she covers every single variable, because we are all individuals. And to lump everybody who has breast cancer into one thing and say this is the protocol is not the way she or Dr. Yance or Dr. McGee, they love to personalize based on everything we can find out about you. How many fillings of mercury in your mouth, and how often did you eat fish, and how well did your family live? How long did they live? Are you people who have bad excretion for heavy metals? One family can get rid of heavy metals like mercury 4 times faster than other groups. So the pathways to control cancer, what do we need to do? Well, we need to talk about gene expression, which is why some people are taking their tumor when they have real money, not something insurance pays for, because they're not going to pay for that yet. Or Dr. Nagorny's test in California, where we save your tumor and test it against new treatments that come up. Cell growth messengers, including hormones, they're the good guy hormones. Like I believe you will find, as I said, rapidly melatonin and DHEA and the amazing product maca. That I take a teaspoon of maca powder twice a day because it's a glucosinolate. It's going to work very much like cabbage to detoxify me, but it also offers many other very useful benefits. And then there's things like we don't want the tumor to have new blood vessels, and simple things like eating blueberries. Many other things are anti-angiogenesis and slow down the tumor growth. But I want to tell you that it's front cover of Life Extension about how much research there is about eating more blueberries. It's great for your memory, but it also helps treat what we call the metabolic syndrome. You know, that's where people are either diabetic or have all these other issues. And interestingly enough, we can help the cancer cells commit suicide, which is what they're supposed to. They've become immortal, and we don't want immortal cells. And in fact, we can take a cancer cell, and by altering the environment, my friend Dr. Kochi, K-O-C-H-I, in Tokyo, if you happen to speak Japanese or like visiting Japan, that's a great hospital, and he does wonderful work, as I was doing at the Manor Clinic in Tijuana. When I took the Wobenzyme, 30 pills a day, and added the IV vitamin C, and then put in that drip, I added the Laetrile to get some of the effect of a thing that we later identify as the active factor in Laetrile called benzaldehyde, which Dr. Kochi in Japan is provingly showing that you can take lung cancer, and you don't have to cut the cancer out. You can make the lung cancer decide to become non-cancer, and it's pretty exciting. But at this conference that I'm so impressed with, we really talked about inflammation. And the reason I'm so impressed is not everybody's going to be able to call up Longevity Plus and buy Miraval and take the wonderful improved delivery system of curcumin called Miraval and take 2 twice a day as I do for inflammation. Oh yeah, a lot of us are going to have to try to save money. And that's why I was so pleased in the talk by Dr. Bharat Agarwal when he said, look let people go to the store and buy spice and get curry or get turmeric and put that liberally on their food. And you aren't going to always have to have everybody get the most absorbed, most stable form of curcumin in order to give people help. but other things that can cut down on the growth of new blood vessels, that if we can make the new blood vessels not feed the growing new tumor, the new tumor doesn't keep getting bigger. And I need to emphasize, don't spend all of your time hoping that the tumor has to go away. Because when you push your doctor to make the tumor go away, if we make all your tumors stop growing and you live for 10 years, that's not a bad trade-off, and it may be a lot more able to be delivered to people than this old idea that we want the whole tumor gone. I don't care what you do to me, doc, get the tumor gone. If I could cause all your tumors to stop finding a new home in your body and stop growing with these things that we're talking about, all of you could have blueberries. All berries have good things in them, but blueberries that's kind of at the top of the list. And I'm not going to use the soy genistein because I don't need genistein, because I have HRT, herbal remedy from Thailand. Watch 1 hour on my website and learn why I, as a man, take this product once a day and all American women take it twice a day, so they avoid the problem of hot flashes, insomnia, depression, vaginal dryness, frequency of urination, as well as avoiding the little problem of breast cancer. So now we have research out of Harvard that a estrogen-like compound called tamoxifen, which my HRT is a safe, natural alternative to tamoxifen, which, by the way, being synthetic estrogen, is used by doctors routinely that for patients who have breast cancer in an effort to help slow down the breast cancer recurrence. But what I'm telling you here is the garlic, the green tea, the omega-3. The omega-3s in my Beyond Chelation Improved. We take it every day. The garlics in my chelation improved, as is the molybdenum and the zinc, and the chlorella is in my organic green drink. And the sulfur is a main part of my vitamin C. The bioenergy C delivers to you methylsulfonomethane and trimethylglycine, but MSM is a very advanced form of delivering useful sulfur to your body. So if you look at this one list, anti-angiogenesis agents, we have a very high level of selenium, and I use much more than you're getting in Brazil nuts, but I love to let you know that Brazil nuts help, because a lot of people can't swallow vitamins or can't afford them. So we need to look at what things can we all do. And so this list is just to give you some hint that there's a lot of really useful things out there for all of us to do. How much vitamin A should you take each day? We've all been brainwashed that vitamin A is dangerous and your kids' bones will stop growing, so you never use enough A. But remember, I'm the guy that's teaching you today that the fat-soluble vitamins, that fat-soluble means ADEK. Now, you all know about taking 5,000 units of D a day, and all of you have heard good things about vitamin E in the past, but it was all on the wrong syllable. It wasn't just the DL-tocopherol. We needed the tocotrienols. And if you get the gamma delta tocotrienol that we carry at Longevity Plus from Doctor's Best, and you take that every day, you're going to be interested in what happens. It improves all the lipid parameters of your blood testing, but I'm not one to spend my whole life chasing cholesterol and triglyceride. I just keep people alive and avoid what we call the rancidification of the fats. Let me make this point real clear. People have spent billions of dollars with useless statin drugs that only did one thing. They lowered some inflammation. This dropping your cholesterol down is a waste of money and time. But when we realize that we can do all of those things naturally without the side effects of statins, and that the real problem in the fats in our body is really not how high is my cholesterol, it's how rancid is my cholesterol. That's called oxidized cholesterol. And that test is $100 to $160 for that one test, and probably your insurance companies doesn't pay for it. And of course your MD, 99% of them won't order the test because they don't know what to do if it's elevated, but that's where the payoff is. You don't want to be rancid fats. You know, like butter when it's rancid, and you don't want to be rancid. So that test, actually, that's one time I'll talk cholesterol with you very seriously, but not with this nonsense that they think, oh, everybody's LDL's got to be under 100 and all this. Anyhow, getting back to the point. ACED and zinc. Now we're living with some very exciting times in which using a copper chelator is really helpful on some people with cancer, but zinc is kind of a natural alternative, but we can't take zinc every day of our life without taking the chance of a copper deficiency, so it would be useful if a doctor saw you and you did an occasional hair test. But if we look at ACE selenium, I have everybody on selenium, and you can measure selenium in the hair, and that's a cheap way to make sure you have a full tank. Although some people using Selsun Blue and other things have an artificially high level in hair that's not really high under tissues, it's nonetheless important to look at reducing inflammation. Since I wrote the book, The Omega-3 Miracle, you all need to know that Beyond Chelation Improved, those 9 pills that I have everybody take twice a day, and knock on wood, I never get a phone call that one of our patients on Beyond Chelation Improved has had a fatal heart attack. So I like what we're doing, but we add to the omega-3, we add a primrose. That's a different kind of a gamma-linoleic acid, which is another essential fat. But look at the next line. Dietary sugars, they're killing us. The cancer cell is a sugar hog. And that's why we beat them a little bit. When you've got the money to afford to take IV vitamin C as a part of a treatment, along with K3 and the Wobenzym and all the other things that I call my FIGHT program, if you're taking intravenous vitamin C and then staying on enough oral vitamin C from our special vitamin C delivery system called Bioenergy C that has the unique ability to be tested, we give you for 20 cents a stick, a little stick that you can wet the end of the stick, and if it stays dark green, you will not live a long time. But if you can get it up to the bright yellow color, which anybody can, if they're taking 1 teaspoon 3 times a day of Bioenergy C, they will have the highest levels of vitamin C in the blood that I believe are achievable without putting it in the vein. Now, I have total love of intravenous vitamin C. It just costs money. And you can't do it every day of your life, so I have to make it clear that vitamin C taken once a day by mouth is not enough. You've got to divide it up. Take it morning, noon, and bedtime. And that's why I'm so pleased that our vitamin C delivery system called Bioenergy C has the methylsulfonamidine, the trimethylglycine, the ribose, because it does things that no other seed does, because the stick that you can order from Longevity Plus, that simple stick allows you to find out who in your family is going to keep you broke. Because anybody in your family who, when you check their urine, if the stick doesn't change color, the little green on the end stays green, they are going to be sick, I guarantee it, and whatever treatment they're taking is not going to work well. Because they have what we used to call scurvy. They are so toxic that their body doesn't have enough antioxidants to fight back. So I hope that this slide is helping you a little bit, because we have to get everybody on all the fat-soluble vitamins. Vitamin K3 is the one that's in Apitone that's now FDA approved when given with vitamin C to treat bladder cancer. But I want you all to be on vitamin K2, totally different product. But not only does it prevent your bones from breaking and getting weak and prevent the calcium from leaving your bone and winding up on your artery, it also helps cut down these cancers. But when you take K2 and K3, we're winning the fight even better. But if you look at what I'm saying you need to be on ADEK, because these are fat-soluble vitamins. And what I'm really saying with that sentence is this. Our whole country, I believe, is in deep trouble because the farmer is not paid for the quality of food, he's paid for the quantity. And therefore he fell into a trap. He believed Monsanto and other companies when they sent him genetically modified food. It sounded like it was going to save money. The food would come up with its own pesticide called Bacillus thuringiensis. So when you are getting GMO food, and everybody in this country is eating some GMO food, unless you are a world-class detective, you are not able to avoid it, because no matter how careful they try, even organic foods can be cross-contaminated by a field down the street. And why is that important? Because it changes your intestine. And your intestine doesn't have the healthy, teeming lives of little bacteria called your intestinal flora, which is why I have everybody on acidophilus every day of their life. Chiodophilus 9 I like, but I get something that works for you, but understand that it's going to get killed the next day you eat anything that had any soy or any corn in it. And they hid corn in the high fructose corn syrup. They hide corn in everything. So when you're getting that, you're getting genetically modified. And when you're getting genetically modified, that's introducing an insecticide slash pesticide into your gut, which isn't good for the friendly guys down there that are trying to convert your fuel. The food you eat is not usually in its most bioavailable form. It needs to be changed and adapted and worked on and modified by the intestinal flora. But we have this epidemic now. Everybody's looking for the gluten-free. Forget it. It's not just gluten-free anymore, folks. If you go to all gluten-free and you live 100% on triticale or quinoa, you're going to become sensitive to that, because we don't have, unless you take my power drink, which I take twice a day, but if you do it once a day, what's in the power drink? Well, the organic green with all the vegetable greens and the sea greens and the chlorella. But if you look at what I do with the power drink, then I put in the maca, so you're getting the cabbage-like things, but also supporting your healthy hormone function. And at the same time, I give you the most powerful detoxifying fiber I could find on the planet. It is really stabilized rice bran. And it's called Beyond Fiber because I added to it the EDTA and I added to it artichoke. So if you're getting my power drink, you will be getting Beyond Fiber and the maca and the organic green, and you will be consuming my Bioenergy C, which is the most sophisticated vitamin C delivery system, but only in tiny amounts. You really need big amounts, as you can prove to yourself with a simple vitamin C test that we recommend that you buy and learn to use. So what should we be eating? Well, I can assure you that this chart is quite a bit different than what 99% of Americans are eating. And I'll let you look at it at your leisure because we're going to run out of time if I'm going to get to questions and answers. But Dr. Bharat Agarwal really got me excited when he said that of all the cancer-related deaths, 25% are tobacco-related, 30 to 35% relate to your diet, 15-20% are infections. So you can understand now why I have my FIGHT program. And how am I going to get rid of your infection? Well, I've got silver if you can't afford to see a doctor that does oxidative therapies, as we trained 40 doctors at the ACAM conference when I was working with Robert Rowan, and any doctor can buy those tapes for $99 and learn how are we going to do with all these things. The rest of it's stress and lack of physical activity and the environmental pollutants. So this slide, and what he's saying is that if we give you spices and fruits and vegetables and traditional remedies from Ayurvedic medicine that goes back 7,000 years, maybe I can keep you healthy and you don't wind up spending $100,000 on some crazy chemo and another $100,000 on some ridiculous radiation and surgery that isn't going to do that much for your quality of life. And if you look at the data, I can show that anybody, whether you go to the Mexican clinic, Oasis of Hope, with the really good work in Tijuana, or the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, you'll have a longer life than if you stay with mainstream. But of course, mainstream's covered by insurance. So a lot of people wait till they're 99% dead and the mainstream fails. And of course, then we don't look so good, and a lot of our doctors won't take patients who've waited to come till the very end, because it doesn't feel good to get to know somebody and then lose them. And so you prefer to get virgin cases that haven't already been attacked by the cut, burn, poison approach of cancer therapy. This book will be a good investment. If you learn how to use spice, try to understand. We used to call it the spice trade a couple thousand years ago. Well, it wasn't just spices, folks. This is what people used to stay alive. Remember, we didn't have refrigeration. So what he is telling you with the slides, which I will hope to show you at a future thing, these slides are so important because there is 150 peer-reviewed studies on traditional therapy, not just the curcumin that you hear me talk about today, but so many that you have never heard of. And it's because we know inflammation is tied to your Alzheimer's, as well as to your multiple sclerosis, as well as to your arthritis and your diabetes. It's inflammation, inflammation. So NF-kappa B is the pathway. Big word, you don't have to learn it. But what we want you to know is that when you take these simple things like turmeric or curry, and look at all the things that have anti-tumor, anti-inflammatory. Look at this list. Fenugreek, aloe, gugolo. I mean, the list goes on and on. Cruciferous vegetables. Try to eat your cabbage. Try to get your beans. Curcumin and turmeric It goes back 5,000 years. This is such an important food, spice, and it can cut down on how many people are going to develop breast cancer, colon cancer, pancreas, gastric, liver, blood, prostate. So since we're all, at this moment, what were they saying to us? That 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 2 of us will have some kind of cancer before we die. And since these same pathways are involved in heart disease, why wouldn't we take some of these spices every day? So there's a lot of documentation here. He's written small handbooks, he's written big handbooks. He's published over 500 papers, which is why I really like this man. He's as driven, if not more driven, than I am. So I wanted to remind you, vitamin K helps. That's garlic is in the Beyond Chelation Improved, the best garlic I can find. There's calcium in it, but I'm not going to give you calcium without magnesium. It's my absolute rule. You never take calcium without the same amount of magnesium. That's what I do when you buy Beyond Chelation Improved. Pomegranates are very interesting, but there's also the omega-3, and it's in the Beyond Chelation. And you can buy green tea. It's got lots of things going, just eating pistachios. And please eat your broccoli. So what's the fight for your health? Well, I think by now all of you know that it's food, infection, genetics, and you've got heavy metals, hormones, and toxins. But you'll notice there's actually 2 F's. The second F would be focus, because you see what you think, as they said in Think and Grow Rich or in The Secret, these things, our focus, our attitude is so eloquently explained in the intention experiment by Lynn McTaggart, really makes it clear that we can win these fights for health, but they're not making it easy between what big business has done to already rape our planet. And I did send out a powerful film that anyone could watch that was a bird's eye view of flying around the entire globe. And it would really depress you if you started looking at it, but it would wake you up to the fact that we are chosen to be here on Earth at this time, and it may, who knows. Our really good friend Bruce Lipton, in his book called Spontaneous Evolution, says to us that it's not the end, folks, that there are really some exciting times ahead, because consciousness is shifting. And consciousness can have tremendous influence on the outcomes of anything. So going back to detoxification, how many of us are willing to sit in a far infrared sauna for an hour a day, 3 hours a week? Well, if you were one of the 9/11 workers trying to save all those lives of people breathing that horrible air, we've had to have some of those people in their far infrared sauna 8, 9, 10 hours a day for 1, 2, and even 3 months. So try to understand that when I tell you to take zeolite every day, it's not because I want you to spend the money. Zeolite's absolutely just one of God's gifts to us to try to deal with a toxic, poisoned planet. And we have tried to make it clear that we have it in 2 forms, the spray form, so you can start your baby and your puppy in any size and spray it on things, and start anybody without having to worry about a detoxing reaction, which are pretty rare and they're healthy for you anyhow. But, anybody wants to can start right out with the Zeo Gold. 1 capsule of Zeo Gold is the equivalent of a whole bottle of the ACZ Nano. And the ACZ Nano probably is still helping us move the mercury out. But one of the research reports at the ACAM conference this past weekend, Dr. Hickey, neurologist, using doctors' data, was able to establish that what Dr. Gordon has been saying all along, namely that calcium EDTA is the right form of EDTA to use, and of course we still have some resistance. A lot of doctors are certainly entitled to their opinion. But we have proof, at doctors' data, that if your doctor would switch to calcium EDTA, we would be getting more of a let out with each treatment he gives you. But now Dr. Hickey presented a paper that's showing the fecal stool analysis. That would be the actual measurement of mercury in the stool. He finds that calcium EDTA is helping push the mercury out through the stool. So we've been kind of confused by this because I didn't have that data when I started the chelation movement. Remember, I've only been practicing medicine now about 54 years, having gotten out in 58. And when we formed ACAM, that was, about 38 years ago, and we didn't know it all then, so when I had to go by what the literature said. So we thought you had to use DMSA and or DMPS to get rid of the mercury, but it turns out that's not entirely true. So between what I'm telling you now, my power drink, which has all the organic greens, the higher dose C, which I've just told you that we've been able to show that that is able to take that green stick and provably have you with the highest achievable blood levels, because if you have 100 milligrams of vitamin C in your urine, you have very high blood levels in your vitamin C in your blood, meaning that I'm making every cancer patient live far longer by that simple trick. Buy the stick, keep it in the yellow color 24/7, and do that to your loved ones. It's going to cost money. It's the most expensive vitamin C delivery system on the planet because it's not just vitamin C. It's ribose and trimethylglycine and methylsulfonamethane, so there's a lot to it. But what I'm trying to have people realize is if you were detoxing every day of your life, you are going to help win an impossible battle. Because the day you were born, according to the studies right on my website, ewg.org, environmentalworkinggroup.org, and you can go to my website and watch CNN/Toxic America, and watch it. Because they tell you the Environmental Working Group has proven how many toxins are in every single baby. At birth, we took the blood, the cord blood, 10 children, spent $15,000 per child, measured everything, and they're loaded with carcinogens, neurotoxins, and endocrine disruptors like all of us are. And because it's 1,000 times too high in your bone, it's so sad that the wonderful IV chelation, which I love intravenous chelation, and I love intravenous treatments of oxidative therapy, whether it's ultraviolet blood irradiation or ozone, or even the new approaches that we're working on with the hydrogen peroxide to avoid the burned vein. The reason we gave up the inexpensive hydrogen peroxide was because if it burned a vein, you would find it harder to start an IV on your arm in the future. Now they find that if they use the heating pad adequately and set it medium and apply it continuously from the time they start the process, that we have enough blood flow that we dilute it. So anyhow, there's exciting news here that we can fight back against all of these problems. And the big thing that is so sad is the IV chelation. You can take 100 treatments and feel fantastic. I've had 200, but I haven't used any in 15 years because I found I could absolutely win the battle using my zeolite and my power drink and my high-dose vitamin C and the oral chelation. I take oral chelation every day. Garlic's an oral chelator, but so is the EDTA, and so is D-L-methionine. And across the board, we have many oral chelators, but the point is this. 100 chelation or 200, I didn't get the lead out of my bones. So if I had foolishly said to the doctor, I feel wonderful, thanks, I'll see you in 10 years, I would have gone right back within a year to being sick, because you're born with 1,000 times too much lead in your bone, and that is going to reach equilibrium with your eye and give you a cataract, and or is going to be behind whatever you die of, whether you die of suicide or accident, or you die of diabetes, or whatever you die of. That's called all causes of morbidity and mortality are directly tied to how low did you keep your level of lead throughout your life. So try to understand that since I can't get it out with the intravenous, and now it's front page news. If you buy on the streets today the Discover magazine for April 2011, front page story is China Syndrome, 1,400 tons of mercury heading your way. When you read what this says, you'll stop worrying about, are we breaking too many of the fluorescent bulb replacements because there's mercury in them, or is my 3 fillings causing me to die? Read this magazine. I will put this up more on my website. I will explain it further to the fact group, but it tells you that China, in order to give us things we need, have smelting, and smelting turns the air filthy, and then they burn a lot of coal for their electricity. But most frighteningly, they've now identified that the jet stream is picking up the windstorms in their increasingly huge deserts which because of drought are getting even bigger, and the windstorms are carrying right into the American bloodstream in the air you breathe, the food you touch, and the water you drink. You are getting loaded with mercury, and it's 1,400 tons. So it makes everything else in my mind kind of become unimportant. If you believe anything that I've said with all my slides on my website, there are hours and hours and hours of documentation on my website. It's proven by AMA standards that all cause of morbidity and mortality tied to how low your lead level is, and no one has ever found something good or safe about mercury. And now that mercury is coming directly into the air and the dust we breathe, you may want to think how you're going to protect yourself, not just against all the disaster going on in Japan, which is a tiny piece of the toxins that you get every single day. So no matter if things get as bad as possible in Japan, it's still, with the cesium and the iodine and other that we will be getting, it is a fraction of all the things that are going to really contribute to whether you are as healthy and feel as fantastic as I do at 76, or you're spending your last years not enjoying anything. So Vitamin C and Cancer was a good book by Linus Pauling, and you reduce the risk by getting some C every day, but the higher you need now because of the China syndrome, what's coming in your air. So this is the vitamin C that I wish everyone would understand. It is a vitamin C delivery system with ribose nucleotide activated. And this is the simple chart that tells you whether you are going to have a sick family, because if your children, when you check the urine, are in the dark green, you will have sick children. They will have asthma, they'll have diabetes, they're going to have brain learning disorders. I assure you, you will not have health when you're at the zero level of vitamin C in the urine. You want to keep, and that's yourself at 100, and to do that I had to make vitamin C so it was well tolerated by the stomach, because Linus Pauling was my friend, but I couldn't take these huge levels of vitamin C. He was taking 18, 20 grams a day. My brother was taking that. If I took more than a gram, my entire gut was on fire, and the gas was keeping me in the bathroom. So it had to be changed. We've done it. And now 99% of you could, if you give a few days, you can absolutely work up to 1 teaspoon 3 times a day, or roughly every 6 to 8 hours, morning, mid-afternoon, bedtime, and you will, I assure you, have a far longer life. Those of you who are health professionals, I again remind you that we have thousands of doctors now sharing at no cost their own personal protocols on how to treat everything from insomnia to multiple sclerosis to ADHD to Alzheimer's to every form of cancer. So there's so much to know. With knowledge doubling every 2 years, it's kind of hard to know what to do. There's so much to know. And with that, I wish to take questions from you, and I thank you for your attendance. And I have the first question now. An 89-year-old man with prostate cancer whose PSA goes up and down. What's the best treatment? He exercises, has a decent diet, takes vitamins and minerals, and gets his rest. So my point then is that 89-year-old does not want to do any panic, because, as I said last week, Dr. Black at Dartmouth did the studies on every dead body and published it. It was written up by the New York Times, and we proved beyond question when you're 70 years of age, 70% of men have prostate cancer. At age 80, 80% of us do. At age 90, 90%. So what treatment does he need? He needs only enough treatment to let him reach his maximum intended useful lifespan while enjoying infinite health and wisdom. How do I do that? Well, I can tell you the following. I'm only a young 76, and I can tell you that everything I add to my program, and it's disgusting, I'm the most expensive person. I'm the supplement. There's no one I don't, well, there might be some. Yeah, no, there's Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil probably takes even more supplements than I do. He's written very extensively on anti-aging. But I would be probably a close second best. There may be a few people out there, but I really do know my supplements. And I take virtually everything on the order form that makes sense for me from Longevity Plus. So what do we want to do? We want to think. At age 89, he's not likely to die of prostate cancer. In fact, the risk of dying at that age is extremely small. But let's make sure that he has a good quality of life. So let's think it through. if he was to take my Beyond Chelation Improved and take those 9 pills twice a day, what would I do? I would, by doing that simple thing, he would add to my group where there hasn't been a single fatal heart attack or single fatal stroke in over 25 years. So immediately I've added years to his life and hopefully life to his years. But what's the point of all that? Well, cancer is believed by the Warburg Nobel Prize that it grows in areas that don't have good oxygen delivery. So if I could get this gentleman to be on my BCI twice a day, that would be a good step, because I would be getting more blood through his prostate, just like I get more blood to his toe, because the BCI makes your blood more like the thickness of wine instead of the thickness of ketchup. And so it doesn't just prevent you of dying a heart attack and stroke, it helps you perfuse your tissues and keep your eyes working and your brain working. But we then want to look at what other things can we do? Well, I've said that all cancers are going to be dramatically reduced if we are smart enough to do something to lower inflammation. Now, that inflammation can be whatever turns you on. I mean, because I'm worried about my brain, not so much my prostate, I take the Miraval, but on anybody taking curcumin, we're adding life to his years. Now, then, if we go a little further and think this thing through, he should really take my power drink, because we know when we take the tumor out of any woman's breast or man's prostate or colon, whatever tumor we get our hands on, the tumor has concentrated all the toxins that you hear about in the babies when you go to environmentalworkinggroup.org, EWG.org, and read the dioxin and PCBs and polybrominated phenyl ethers, and so I could go on and on. But the point is that if I have him doing my power drink with those 4 vital things, which include the maca, which is going to do some really good things for him, not just to detoxify him, but also stabilize some of his hormone levels. So if he's on my Beyond Fiber and he's getting my organic green and he's taking my maca and he's getting in that product, he will be adding a slightly heaping teaspoon twice a day when he gets his power drink of my Bioenergy C. Now, he's only getting it twice. Technically, I said ideally he should take 1 dose of my Beyond Vitamin C in the middle of the afternoon, so he gets 3 doses, so he's getting a total of 12,000 milligrams a day, which is close to what Linus Pauling showed, because Linus was always on 16 to 18,000. Now, then, let's keep thinking. If he has no...
Reload your card for free with direct deposit.
If he has no problem with any urinary symptoms, it would be overkill perhaps, but if he was lucky enough to find one of the doctors, and as I said, more and more ACAM doctors seem to be open to buying one of the $20,000 pulsed electromagnetic field devices, if I treat directly with the PEMF right over the man's prostate and then have him sit on it, I will be putting a wonderful raising in the tissue of his prostate gland. I'll be raising the level of alkalinity in the cancer cell. So when you make it more alkaline, the oxygen that the blood that's going to get down there, because remember, I got him on BCI now and he's getting all the good stuff, and then I want to lower the thickness of his blood, so I would add the Wobenzyme 10 3 times a day, because I really like it as an anti-inflammatory and for other reasons, and I take that half an hour before meals. But what I'm trying to say is if I can get all of the nutrients to his prostate, then what is going to happen is the prostate is going to stay there, and it's not going to be up and down. It's going to stay low, because the fact that it goes up and goes down means that when he's doing everything right, his body is dealing with the cancer. We've had peaceful PSA so high of 800, 1,000. We always bring down elevated PSA. Try to understand this concept. On my website, gordonresearch.com, you put in the word cancer, and what you do is you watch Kobayashi, Kobayashi, and he has an article called World Without Cancer, and he tells you exactly how we kept 10,000 patients over 10 years in Tokyo from anyone dying of cancer, even if everybody in their family died of cancer, and it was a simple program. We did these tests that caused patients to take better care of themselves. So a PSA test for this 89-year-old man is good, because it tells him if it's going up that maybe he wants to do a little more. He may think he's getting a decent diet. It's hard to have a decent diet when you have Monsanto and genetically modified food and leaky guts and foods that don't have much nutrients, and we've robbed the topsoil, and he can't have the time to raise his own organic food in his own garden where he could balance the soil. So I'm suspicious that we could improve the diet. I don't care if you read up on pomegranate. It will help his prostate, but if I look at all the literature, if I take this gentleman and I give him just 25 milligrams of DHEA every day from now on for the next years, he might live to 120. And give him 3 milligrams of melatonin. You see, I value my friends who are 70, 80, 90 because they may have the knowledge that's going to save this planet, because we're looking at some dark ages. We're looking at some big problems. The earth changes, climate changes. But so I think that there's a repository of knowledge in those of us that are up in years, and I value them immensely. And so I want to keep people like this as far away as I can from dumb things. And the dumb things are, somebody will tell them, well, we take the prostate out completely, you have nothing to worry about. That's nonsense. Prostate is a systemic disease. Taking it out is nothing. That doesn't solve a problem. And then we're going to radiate it completely. That's nothing. That's not an answer. So then where I'm at is then would I do surgery? Well, the surgery we would do would be only really if he couldn't urinate easily, and then we'd do the most minimal surgery we could, the transurethral, right through the penis. But I really like heat, and nothing is better than heat for the prostate. Now, if you really don't have a lot of money, you go on the website and try to find something, because they have put some rectal heaters that are the size of your index finger, and they sell them for people who have a little hemorrhoid. And if you buy one of them for $300, whatever, and you slide that up a little above the rectum, right, so it's kind of slid, so it's right on top of the prostate, you'll heat the prostate. Now, that's poor boys do it at home, but if you have the money and you go see my friend Dr. Friedrich Dawes, at Clinic St. George in Bad Aibling, Germany, land in Munich, half-an-hour cab trip, I can assure you that we do hyperthermia with very advanced, $250,000 machine that was developed specifically for this at the Semmelweis University in Budapest, and I've spent a lot of time with the people who developed this device, and you put the little, just a rubber catheter into the penis. But in the middle of the rubber catheter, I have a little spring, and I put the spring right in the middle of the prostate. So when I turn on the $250,000 machine, I am gently raising the temperature of the prostate from the inside out. That is a very quick overview of prostate. I don't want to go a lot longer on that because there may be other questions, but I want to make it very clear, taking this simple example, that I really know how to help people with these common cancers. And the prostate cancer was so easy. When I was running the Manor Clinic, all I had to do was give people in the vein the high-dose vitamin C, add the Laetrile, which we now know gave some very unique factors like benzaldehyde that work a little like vitamin K3 to make the vitamin C stronger. See, the vitamin C by itself is useful, but it's not strong enough, so I needed more. Now, then, do I have a comparison? This is the next question. Do I have a comparison chart or research summary of the EM devices as he is reviewing Therms 2000, QRS, PEMFUS, and Renua for sleep improvement? Sleep improvement is not anything that I have researched because I thought we had it when a company, multi-level company called VEMA, V-E-M-M-A, was selling a product called PM. It made 9 out of 10 people sleep like they'd never slept, and it was all based on some very safe Chinese herbs, etc. But they wound up being a little concerned because a couple of patients who were taking perhaps a little too much Tylenol or alcohol at the same time saw a little change in the liver. So I'm not an expert at this moment on the choices you have given me here with the QRS and the Therms 2000 and Renua. I can tell you that the Renua is a good website to go to when you want to learn more about a Tesla-based electric muscle stimulator that I have seen beautiful, clear documentation that takes and avoids amputation and diabetic gangrene of legs by stimulating the muscles of the leg to regrow. And by stimulating muscles, people wind up with a bigger leg, up to 10 inches new muscle. And when that much muscle, then they amazingly have metabolically active tissue, so they're no longer diabetic. And we were able to cancel these amputations on patients. So I like Renua for what they are doing. And the PEMF.US is I'm frankly going to state that adds a $25 cost, looking at what we spend for air conditioning and other things, I believe the time will come when those of you who finally can come to a conference and have an actual demonstration on your own body of a lousy 9 minutes, just sit on it for 3 minutes, lean back against it for 3 minutes, and put it around your neck for 3 minutes. First, take your wallet out because it's not good for your credit cards to be around a magnet. But if we do that simple thing to you, I could tell you that 30 to 40% of you will arrange to find a neighbor or a relative who will share the $500 a month leasing cost with you so that you will have access to what has changed my life and given me a brand new back and a new lease on life. I thank all of you for your attention and look forward to being with all of you again next week. And meanwhile, take good care, enjoy good health, and this is Garry Gordon signing out.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. We encourage you to browse Dr. Gordon's website, which is www.gordonresearch.com. The products that Dr. Gordon has formulated are available through Longevity Plus. Please visit our website at www.longevityplus.com or call 800-580-7587 to place your order. We value all of you, and thank you for joining us today.